Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 14th July 2023. My name is T.S.V. Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Haribol TRSV nectar NECTAR nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous videos and future videos. So let us continue with the topic for today's video. Till now, we have been talking about the 5 elements plus ego that make up for the material body of a human living entity. These 5 elements are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. The type of ego that is making a living entity identify himself or herself with this body or this material body is called false ego. Let us keep our discussion with this identification with the body and the psyche connected to everything in this material body. The psychology of a human living entity is very complicated but interesting. It is a world of knowledge of its own. If you observe the life story of several human beings who you know as celebrities or commoners or people who came across in your own life, and if you try to analyze their life stories, you will find it quite intriguing and interesting and may even baffle you with facts or details which were till now ignored by you and the society for our convenience. We shall talk about the case history that will authenticate this particular statement. Before continuing on the case history, let us remember that this complicated psyche of a human being is because of the perpetual permutation and combination of the five elements of this body, which makes up the four layers of the human material body, plus the contribution from his or her false ego. In other words, vibrations from the subtle causal body, vibrations from the subtle astral body of mind and feelings, and vibrations from the etheric body of five senses, plus the contribution from the false ego, totally make up for almost 75% of the psyche of a particular living entity in a particular birth. Yes, it is also affected by that particular individual's prarabdha karma and kriyamana karma. To understand karma better, let us have a recap of that particular theory. Karma is the unworked deeds of a living human entity in his or her past birth and the present one. These karmas are of four types. The first one is called Sanchit Karma. It is a storage of all unworked karma of a living entity which have been collected from his or her past births. Prarabdha karma is the second category. When a person is born, he or she brings with him or her a slice of his or her sanchit karma to work out in that particular birth. This slice is known as prarabdha karma. Logically speaking, a person's life depends on his or her prarabdha karma alone because he or she was born to work out this prarabdha karma, which is the basic foundation of the lifetime of a human living entity. However, destiny has also provided a free will to every human living entity. This free will allows that person to move away from his or her prarabdha karma and act according to his or her whims, fantasies, preferences, experiences, etc. in that particular birth. This gives rise to new karma in that particular person's total sanchit karma, or these give rise to new karma in that particular birth. They are known as kriyamana karma. Kriyamana karma are those karma which have neither direct nor indirect connection with the prarabdha karma of that particular person. Yes, it is quite possible that these karma which are called Kriyamana karma, may be influenced by the prarabdha karma of that particular person. However, they are independent of the past karma of that particular human living entity. Then what happens is, in the end, at the end of the lifetime of that particular living entity, he or she has some unworked karma still. This unworked karma may be a residue from the prarabdha karma which was already existing when he or she was born, or it may be a residue of the independent kriyamana karma that he or she did in that particular birth alone. This residue is joined together to make what is known as agami karma. This agami karma is again glued to the already existing sanchit karma of that particular living entity. Now, when the same living entity takes another birth, and when he or she chooses a slice of his or her existing sanchit karma, this karma may or may not include the unworked kriyamana karma of the past birth. This we must remember before proceeding further. Yes, we may not dwell on the percentage of the material that is used to make a mixture for the psyche of a living entity in a particular birth. But the fact remains that this karma plus contribution from the false ego plus the vibrations of the three subtle bodies that may be or may not be obeyed by his or her gross body in that particular living birth or that particular lifetime makes up the total life and psyche of that particular living entity. It is actually a permutation and combination of these major factors, that is, vibrations from these three subtle bodies of causal intelligence, astral mind, etheric senses, plus his or her karma, both prarabdha and kriyaman in a particular birth, plus contributions of the false ego of that particular birth, combined together to define a particular person completely or almost completely in a particular lifetime of that particular living entity. We shall talk about a case history that will make us understand this particular thing better. There is a township called Indore in India. This Indore was a part coastal provinces during the colonial period. However, later on it became a part of a state called Madhya Pradesh. However, we are going to talk about something which is a case history spanning both periods, that is, the colonial period and the independent period. Now, in this Indore was born one person who belonged to this town, and his name was Dinanath. Pandit Dinanath, he was called because he was a musical genius. This person was quite popular in his locality during his adulthood. This person was extremely talented. Now to take a detour. Because this person was very talented musically, his astral body of feelings and emotions and his astral mind must have been quite active during his lifetime. Now, we all know that 75% of the humanity or the society depends on etheric senses alone in its lifetime. 20% depends on this astral mind plus the residue of etheric senses in his or her psyche in a lifetime. So, in this particular life or case history, Pandit Dinanath's psyche was almost 75% astral mind of feelings and emotions that actually gave birth to his creativity as a musician. Now we know how these subtle bodies and their vibrations work on a human living entity. A living entity who listens to the vibrations of his or her astral mind of feelings and emotions may become creative by nature. Now, this Pandit Dinanath had four daughters and one son. They were all musically trained by Pandit Dinanath. Of them, the first Lata and the second Asha were probably more keen as singers and musicians than the other three, but we are not certain about this fact. Probably all the five were equally talented. I am saying this only after you understand what I mean by following through this case history. Anyway, unfortunately, Pandit Dinanath passed on very early in his life. If only this had not happened, and probably if this man had lived up to an old age, things could have been slightly different, but the fact remains that this person passed on early. When this person passed on, his first daughter Lata and his second daughter Asha were in their teens, but the other three were very young. However, this family, after his death, relocated to the commercial city called Bombay, which is now Mumbai and which is the capital of the state of Maharashtra in India. When these people relocated to Bombay, the thriving Bollywood film industry was taking its first baby steps into complete success and euphoria at that particular moment. These people became a part of that roaring 30s of the Bollywood period in Bombay at that time. Because they were already musically talented, they joined the musical industry of the thriving Bollywood of that particular period. There were quite a few very famous singers or playback singers in Bollywood even at that time. However, the teenage Lata decided to slog it on in that particular industry to earn a living for her whole family. Little did she or anyone know by then that the political upheaval or turmoil in India will affect her career in such a way that she will turn out to be a legend, an international celebrity, and an icon in the musical industry of India. However, this lady was hardly in her early, mid, or late teens, joined as a playback singer in that musical industry. Soon she was joined by with her own second sister, Asha. These people were seeing a lot of hard times just because their father was already gone and they had to earn a living to bring up their own family and to keep the house fires burning. This probably changed the psyche of both the girls in two different ways. Lata became a monkish person and she had a hermit's attitude towards her family responsibilities. They became her priority in life. Now we will take another detour. This girl is most probably from the astral world of feelings and emotions. That is why, and that is because of being in the astral world, that her brain took vibrations from the astral body of feelings and emotions. And that is the reason why she became musically oriented. She may be a very good performing artist, but she was no musician on her own. She was only an excellent singer, which is a part of astral body of feelings and emotions. Plus, thanks to her false ego and other such factors, along with circumstances and atmosphere, she started becoming very insecure financially. She was brought through hard times. Her father was middle class at best, but now in the film industry, thanks to her talent as a singer, she was getting slowly recognized and she had an opportunity to make a lot of money from this particular musical profession. When the money came, the family started living comfortably. She was joined by her own sister Asha, who also was affected by all these things, but she was brought up in a protective atmosphere because of her elder sister, who took the brunt of hardships while running that family. This Asha was slightly rebellious in her nature. However, she, probably because of her own psyche or because she was tutored in such a way by her elder sister Lata, became quite insecure herself. Now, these two sisters, probably because of the boiling psyche in their lives or the boiling mixture of the vibrations from astral body plus the contribution from the false ego plus their own prarabdha and kriyamana karma became a person who was very good in his or her talent and nature otherwise, but who was pulled towards cruelty, selfishness, fear, insecurity, etc., a mixture of emotional combinations. Here comes Kriyamana Karma. Actually, these two girls were individually born with their prarabdha karma to be attracted towards their own astral mind of feelings and emotions, and that is precisely the reason they got qualified in performing arts of music. However, their own circumstances made them do something new in the, because of the free will as Kriyamana Karma. But what it made them do was not exactly as noble as their own Prarabdha Karma was. Because of their fear of losing their control over the thriving Bollywood film industry. These two made no stone unturned to prevent others, including their own other siblings, from taking that control or snatching it away from these two girls. They went to the extent of prevailing upon other musical composers and music players to prevent them from hiring these other singers who were probably equally talented and who deserved success themselves. This is how psychology of a human being works. As they say, nobody is born negative. It is his or her thinking vibrations from his or her subtle body or the circumstances and atmosphere through which this person has to pass through that decide on the psyche of a particular person. The same thing happened to these girls also. They were extremely or divinely talented and had a very good toehold or even a foothold on the music industry in Bombay. However, the feeling of childhood insecurity coaxed them to be ruthless and cruel in their professional competition against other singers who were probably equally talented and who deserved their own success in the film industry. Nobody knows why destiny wanted it this way, but the fact remains that almost 30 years of Bollywood musical film industry was totally ruled by these two female singers. They became so deadly that they controlled not only the female side but also the male side of the musical film industry plus the actual film production. Some of the top bigwigs from the film industry supported these two girls only because it served their own selfish purposes. They wanted to make their own film a success and so they chose not to interfere in this petty squabble among the female singers. This shows us how the psyche of a human living entity works. We must all remember to be very, very careful in our decisions and our emotions, feelings, logic, etc. It is preferable that even if we are listening to our etheric senses and astral mind, we have enough sense to listen to the vibrations from our soul, our conscience, and our causal intelligence, which will prevent us from doing anything untoward in our Kriyamana karma, because we cannot guarantee that whatever we have done in Kriyamana karma during a particular birth is going to be worked out in that particular birth itself. If it doesn't, and if a substantial residue of the same remains in our karma, it becomes a part of our agami karma and may join our sanchit karma at the end of our this particular lifetime. In such a case, these negative karma plus vibes become a part of our future prarabdha karma, which may not be so noble as it was in this particular birth. We must always do something which is either neutral or positive or something that improves the quality of our own evolvement in this lifetime so that in the next birth, when we come with another slice of Sanchit Karma and that slice becomes our Prarabdha Karma for the next birth, we come back as better human specimens and not something more negative than what we were in our past. We must know that our ultimate aim in life is not to keep going in a cycle of endless births and deaths, but to seek liberation from this endless cycle and get delivered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the aim we should always remember before taking any decision or before doing any effort in our own birth or lifetime in our Kriyamana karma so that we are not affected by it adversely. That is all I wanted to speak in this particular case history. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular matter. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, and ideas so that I may keep reminding you of my other videos, plus blending your own opinions, thoughts, views, and ideas with my own for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.